Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel. Today I just wanted to share with you guys how I make my white bread recipe. I've been making this recipe for years. I typically make it with a KitchenAid mixer, but that's not necessary. I've been using it before I even owned a KitchenAid mixer, but the KitchenAid makes it easier. Ultimately, the easiest way to make bread is if you actually have a bread maker, because you just put all the ingredients in there and it does all the work for you, include making it. But for those who do not have a KitchenAid mixer or a bread maker, it's a simple way to make white bread. So hopefully you guys give it a try. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and share this video with anyone who you think would be interested in learning how to make basic white bread, or is a lover of bread and has never made their own, or may be intimidated by it. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and I will see you later. Bye. So I have 2 cups of warm water, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 cup of coconut oil, 1.5 tablespoons of yeast, 2/3 cup sugar, and 6 cups of flour. So here I'm just going to melt that coconut oil into the warm water and incorporate the sugar in there. Mix it as much as you can. It's going to still have solid pieces remaining, but nothing that won't get mixed with the mixer. All right, so the yeast is going to go in there. The salt is going to go right in there. And then I'm going to add my liquid in slowly while I have my KitchenAid mixing at a fairly low speed, because I'm just trying to get the ingredients incorporated together. As you mix, again, you don't have to have a KitchenAid for this. Ideally, you can even use a pot spoon if you want to, and that's still going to get the job done. It's just more work. But needless to say, you're going to add the liquid into your bowl with flour with yeast and salt, and mix it until it's just one solid form. Now, if you're going to continue using a KitchenAid, you'll just let it knead for maybe 6 or 7 minutes. And I'll show you a little bit later in the video a little trick to know when your dough is finished being kneaded. Otherwise, once you get a good solid clump, eventually you can turn it out onto the countertop and begin to knead. And I will show you that a little bit later. So for those who are not using a KitchenAid, I have my dough that's not finished being kneaded, and I'm just turning it onto a lightly floured surface. Not too much flour, because this recipe does have a good amount. So kneading ultimately is just turning the dough into itself. And as you can see, I'm just flipping it over and pushing it down, turning, flip, push it down, and that's it. It's very simple. It just takes work, pretty much. So if you're going to knead by hand, you need to do this for maybe about 8 to 10 minutes. It is a lot, but it is possible. So this is the little trick that I was telling you guys about. If you take a little bit of the dough and pretty much try and stretch it out as much as you can, and it doesn't break, then your dough is finished the kneading process. And if you can kind of hold it up to the light and see a light shining through, then it's finished being kneaded. So here you see me just adding a little bit of olive oil to coat the dough. And from here you can go several ways. You can either prepare your dough for baking, to you can set it to rise. This particular uh, piece of dough that I'm working with, I'm going to leave it to rise for a little bit, or you can coat it with extra oil and put it in the freezer for when you're actually ready to bake. Now, I'm going to prepare two sets of dough, only showing you one, but this particular one, I'm going to let it sit, and it will be sitting for about 15 minutes. So this is the one that I just did that is not risen, and this is the one that I put to rise 15 minutes ago. And you can see that there is a, a difference, not a big difference, but there is a difference. The dough is much lighter. Air has kind of gotten into it. The yeast has worked a little bit. But I wanted to show you this because there are times where I don't have time to allow my dough to rest, but the bread comes out pretty much the same with slight differences. So here I have my baking pan. It is a little longer than a normal household pan. Um, the amount of dough that I made is equivalent to two regular loaf pans. Um, but what I'm doing here is just pretty much rolling out into the loaf and kind of measuring it to see how much more I need to roll it against the pan. So there's no guesswork really. And I just kind of punch down a little bit the center so it doesn't just rise up in the center and the ends are kind of flatter. This is the dough that I didn't let rise. It is a little bit harder to work with, but possible again nonetheless. It takes me a little bit longer to form it into that loaf pan, the next loaf pan, but I do get it to stretch out enough so it'll fill up the pan. Again, pushing it down a little bit more because it was a little bit resistant, but that's because it just wasn't as fluffy as the other set of dough. So don't forget to grease your pans before you put your dough inside. Let it rise for about 30 to 45 minutes until it doubles in size. Then you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees and let it bake for 30 minutes. And then you'll have homemade fresh bread. Let me know how it turns out for you guys. Enjoy.